All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the ninth episode of DevMar Dots Live podcast. And today we are talking about how to break into developer advocacy. And here with us is Adewale Abati. Adewale, please introduce yourself.
Hello, Sophia. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here today. My name is Adewale Abati. A lot of people call me Ace or just know me as Ace. I am currently a staff developer advocate at Block, specifically TBD, which is a business unit under Block. What else? Yeah, I currently live in Amsterdam. I've been in tech for a little over a decade now, so it's been a minute. I'm super excited to be here.
Also, likewise. So, if you've got a question during this live stream, please do well to drop it in the comments, and he is here to answer your question. So, first of all, Ace, can you share your experience as a developer advocate? How did you come into this field? How did you get started? What were your favorite moments? What were your struggles, your roadblocks? Tell us.
I mean, it was quite an unexpected journey for me to develop advocacy because breaking into tech, I did not particularly have a roadmap outside of engineering. I just wanted to be a web developer and just do everything I could do on the web. But naturally, I found myself hosting like classes, hosting tutorial sessions for people, and just being part of the community. So yeah, and there I just found myself doing stuff that were community focused. A couple of years ago, there was something I think it still exists, Dev Center, where it was just a bunch of developers and techies in Nigeria then that just went up there and were, so it's a small community that was growing. So in that time, I was really excited about helping people out, helping them solve their own problems, just everything that a normal developer advocate would do. But I didn't know that what I was doing was developer advocacy in any way. I was just doing it because it was what felt right or what felt natural for me. So after a while, I got my first job. I got a recommendation from someone in the community actually like, oh, this guy does a lot of community stuff. You can hire me as a developer advocate. That was technically the first time that I knew I could do something as a developer advocate, right? So I picked up that job with Ingressive at the time. And ever since, I've just um, found myself getting deeper into developer advocacy. And that's been nice so far. Roadblocks, I mean, it's just like every other role in tech. You have to keep learning. You have to be able to, grow year in, year out. But one of my favorite moments is something that continues to happen every single time. And I think some of my favorite moments would be anytime I get the opportunity to meet people that I look up to already, either at conferences or in person somewhere. I think my job or my role allows me and enables me the opportunity to meet people that have built amazing things or people that continue to build amazing things. And I think as many times as that happens, that would those are like my favorite moments on the job.
Oh, that's really, really amazing.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
yeah. So now your day to day, okay, what does a typical day look like for you as a developer advocate? And what are your key responsibilities?
I mean, good question. For anyone out there that is also listening and wanted to be a developer advocate, I think it's important for me to mention that it's always going to be contextual. It also depends on the kind of company you're working for and what the business goals are. And even if the business goals are similar, but what's the current stage? Like, that you're currently at in the company? Like, are you doing awareness a lot, or are you doing retention, or are you just building educational resource, as the case may be? So you need to be aware of what the current goal is for your company and also your community, as the case may be, before you can plan out your day. But yeah, it's very. I think it's. I kind of have like a system of routine, so to say, and it kind of starts with starting the day out with catching up with messages or either community messages or questions that might have directed at me, and just using that's beginning of the day to see what has happened while I was asleep or while I was away. And then just for questions that I can answer, I answer right away. For those I'll get back to later, I have an idea that this is the conversation that has happened and all that stuff. Once you're done with that part of the role, keeping up to date with the community members or teammates, as the case may be, then you go to like your actual daily tasks, and that could be building, it could be content creation, it could be preparing for a talk or to travel, as the case may be. So whatever it is in that specific day, whatever tasks I have, already planned for that day, but they vary from building a new Excel project or debugging stuff, updating documentation, um, editing a video, as case may be. But it's very contextual, just based on how different days, change. There's hardly ever the same day, the same kind of day. But in the big picture kind of thing, there's a lot of similarities. Building stuff, creating content, editing content, updating documentation, supporting members of the community, and preparing for a talk, even whether it involves traveling or not. So yeah,
Yeah, wow, that's really really insightful. So
thank you.
now you talked about as a developer advocate, you need to know what stage your company is, and you mentioned something about retention. For those of us that are very new to developer advocacy, can you explain what you mean by retention?
All right. So when I say what stage your company is, you can think of it like this. So there could be a company that is bringing out a new technology. In that case, you want people to be aware of the technology. You want people to know that this is possible. So you really love awareness stuff. For a company that is already like maybe big or established, maybe Microsoft, for example, and they're doing developer advocacy, you would want people that probably already know about this, but you want to convince them to keep using or stay with your product and all those kind of things. That would be considered retention, because people, are already seeing this project, but you want to make sure that the kids continue using it. So your focus for retention in that case could be stuff like or improving the developer experience of the existing application or project, finding ways that if a customer comes and actually finds, they find the project, what would make them stay to use it? Because some could check it and be like, oh, this is not what I want, and then they go on. So even though you made awareness to the point that you reached that customer, you've lost the customer because you're unable to retain them. So just identifying what phase of developer relations your company needs at that particular point in time. Doesn't mean the other phases will stop sometimes, but it just means that this is probably the priority. We are reaching a lot of people, but a lot of people are coming to our application and they're leaving. It means there's probably something wrong, right? Maybe there's something breaking down. Maybe the UX is complicated. Maybe the developer experience is complicated. So you as a developer advocate, you have to go into that space, either speak to members of the community to figure out, are there troubles? Like, is there something you're struggling with using this application or this project that maybe I can make easier for you? Is there a reason you're dropping off at this point? And then just trying to solve the problems for the members of the community so that you can continue to retain them, essentially. So that's what I mean by that.
Oh, wow, that was really, really insightful. So I knew that like there are some stages
Yeah.
in, yeah, I knew that there are stages in retaining or promoting of promoting product adoption within developers or developer community. But I think you just explained how we can go about retention very well. Thank you for that.
My pleasure.
So, as a developer advocate, yeah, how do you balance technical work with community engagement and content creation? Or your role doesn't need you to be as technical as as you should?
My role does require me to be technical. I do a lot of project building and examples, and I get my hands dirty a lot. Um, but yeah, hello to everyone in the audience as well. I try as much as possible to. I'm trying as much as possible to also cater for people that would want to be, what's it called, developer advocate as well. So not just in my own context. To answer the question, it's very important to also figure out what your company needs in that moment. So the question, how do you balance technical work with community engagement and content creation, kind of starts with like time management, right? So it's important to figure out what is important for me to do right now. It could be as a result of maybe problems that members of the community are currently having. It could be an urgent emergency that comes into play, or it could just be or you could just be at a phase where things are going well, so you can take your time out to cover maybe topics that are not so well known. But it's very important to be able to check the temperature of your existing or current community or the stage of the project that is being developed or that you're advocating for, right? And use that to determine if you need to build an example project which is technical for the most part, or if you need to just be within the community to find out what the issues are, right? That's kind of part of community engagement. So you're talking to people, you're participating in conversations, you're pointing them to resources, and then if it feels like that is going well as well, then you can move to creating content for them, right? So if you find out that people might be struggling with some part, not because the part is broken, but I mean, of course, you can always improve the developer experience, but maybe there just needs to be more
Yeah.
content on that topic or on that section of your project. So you realize that okay, I need to create either update documentation or I need to make a video, I need to talk about this, or people don't know about this enough, I need to expand on it, right? So listening, keeping like a listening ear to the members of your community or to people that are using your project, platform, whatever the case is very critical, right? To determining what you need to do, right? To balance whether you need to be doing technical work or community related stuff. And this is just one part, right? Another part boils to like what the business goal is for your company. If you have a manager, your manager can help you set like direction, like this is what our KPI, or this is what our goals are for this quarter or for this half of the year. So while you are doing that, you know that you cannot just completely isolate yourself from the community as well, where you're just doing daily tasks that are assigned to you, but it's like balancing
Yeah.
stuff out, knowing that this is what needs to be done. This is what comes up in the process of getting this done, and finding a way to balance that. But um, time management is very key because you can get lost doing one thing and then you get carried away. So just kind of like section. What I do is I try to have like sections in my day, like okay, in this period is what I'm going to be looking at. Sometimes it doesn't always work, of course, because life. um,
Yeah.
but it's just important to have like that mental note, like, okay, I need to do this, I need to do this, and this is the time block I have set aside to do this. And if I don't need that much time, I can either take a break or move on to something else that needs my attention, right? So I know, like, okay, I don't need to work on this right now. I can move to something else. And that is why, regardless of what it is that you need to do, it still kind of boils back down to that time management factor.
All right. Wow, that was really insightful. So, do you think that a developer, like a full-time dev, can actually become a dev role and not dismiss their coding self or their coding skills?
Yeah, I mean, but you need to be intentional about it. It's kind of similar to my journey as well. I started out as a strictly web developer. I just loved building stuff for the web, full stack, front end, back end, whatever the case was. I like doing stuff that shows up on the web browser. Um, so for me, then, like I said, I just did community stuff in the side. It was like a hobby for me. I had zero intentions. I didn't even know like developer advocacy existed. So I wasn't thinking like I wanted to become a developer advocate, right? I was just doing stuff in the community. And then I gradually found myself leaning more towards community focused activities, right? Um, so it did get at some point where you might find yourself carried away and you are not doing any technical stuff as an engineer because you're just, from one place to another, going around trying to talk to people or trying to be involved um, with several work. It can get very crazy sometimes because you're just doing everything else but coding, or you're doing, and before you know it, 6 months, 1 year into it, you're losing your coding jobs because coding is like any other activity, right? Like you need muscle memory. Sometimes you can be coding and you're not even thinking too hard about stuff. I mean, you've thought about the problem, but you're just like almost subconsciously just typing away because you know what to do and you're just in that mental state, right? And
Yeah.
you can get out of that mental state if you don't do it for so long because then you need to like build up that muscle memory all over again. And one of my biggest advice for people that are getting to develop, because I went through this phase where I was like, do I even still know how to code? Is to make sure that regardless of any dev role that you pick up, no matter how intense things get, unless you have zero interest in being an active coder in the future, never let go of your coding skills. Like no matter how bad it gets, if you cannot code within your official day job, try and have a side project that not necessarily to make money, but it's something that excites you and you can always continue to work on your, sharpen your tech skills. But that's easy to say, right? Because what if you didn't have time to
Yeah.
work on that? But it's just unfortunate because it's something that once it takes 6 months, 1 year, you realize that shit, I don't feel like you can be in front of it on VS Code and you have no idea what to do. Not because you did not know what it was before, but it's just been so long, and you find yourself wasting a lot of time just messing around trying to remember stuff. Because we're human, right? We're not like
Yeah.
we're not machines that are just slot in, slot out. Uh, things get overshadowed. So I think it's very essential. I try to tell people that are trying to break into developer advocacy, like it might be difficult, but just be aware of it. Like whatever I'm doing in my developer relations role, my developer advocacy role, I'm going to try as much as possible to have some coding going on. If you have to like push that into your daily 9 to 5, then awesome. But yeah, so I went through a phase where I wasn't doing any coding and kind of like backfired. I felt like I did not know how to code for a period of time. And then I switched back again to like front end engineering, and then I got my chops up again. I'm like, you know what? Going forward, any developer relations role I'm taking, I'm definitely going to make sure that I continue to code. And thankfully, like my current role at Block, I do a ton of coding. I do a ton of coding. I do a ton of speaking, and it makes me feel like I'm doing the right thing for not just my career, but also for my role as well. So it's very
Yeah.
essential.
Yeah, I think I relate to the abandoning the coding self when you get into DevRel. So October last year, I became a developer advocate at Pieces, an amazing company. And at first, I was more focused on community engagement, creating articles, creating blogs, that for the first 3 months I did not write any code, though I did contribute to the open source project, but it was mostly on the readme, on documentation aspect. So yes, anyone that is out there that really wants
Yeah.
to go into DevRel and don't want to uh, abandon their coding side or their coding skill, try as much as possible to build projects. And this is something that I've learned from tweets by other devrels, is that you can try to create projects that relates to your companies
Yeah.
too. Yeah, for
I was just gonna
example,
add that. Yeah.
yes, for example, Aditya, developer advocate at Upright, what he does is that his project integrates Upright and another tool. That way,
Nice.
he's sort of bringing the developer awareness to that tool and also still coding and still learning some coding concepts as well.
Yeah, that sounds brilliant. I was even going to say what I was going to add before you said that, because that's exactly that's the final point I was going to get to, anyways. But I was going to say like it doesn't even have to be like a third, like it doesn't have to be a side project. It can just be, even if you're focused on writing like a blog post or stuff like content, if that was the priority at that time for your company, you can take your time to build something out using your company's project. Like you're getting your hands dirty, you're building stuff out, and then you're writing about it. So you're still doing
Yeah,
your 9 to 5 job, but you've created a way that you are doing technical stuff. Because at the end of the day, I think there are some DevRel routes where what you might be doing might not be like coding stuff because it's not a library or it's not a project. It could be a platform, right? Where all you just need to
yeah,
teach people how to use it. So you might not be doing any coding. And that could get you. But like if you, oh, okay, what if you build a custom React project to deploy on this platform that you have, even though the platform does not necessarily require coding, but you decide to build up a project to actually test and see how deployment will look like on that kind of platform. That's you building something out to test your actual, employers tool, but you still make sure that your coding skills are maybe not as sharp as they will be if you're working as a coder full time, but they're not like dead. That's essential.
exactly. And I keep hearing this myth that DevRels or developer advocates don't code. And when I got into that field, I found out that that was just a lie, because there are people out there that code. There are people out there that are ready and willing to build projects to
Yeah,
not subdue their coding aspect. So
yeah.
yeah,
But yeah, I think it's just important to know that it's easy to get carried away and not write a lot of code. You could still be technical, you can still understand how things work, but you just find yourself that you're not actually doing the actual labor. And if you get to a point where you need to actually write something, it just keeps your mind, even though you are aware of the technical details of it or implementation of it, you just are not in that mental state. I think it's important for any developer to make sure that they just, like all skills, take time out to train and sharpen that aspect of your career. Because if you're changing jobs, it's going to be essential. If you're trying to find a new role, it's going to be essential, and all of this stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay, before I ask my next question to the audience, if anyone has a question, don't um forget to drop a comment, and Adewale is here to answer you. So Ellie asked, what if you want to ask your employer about possibly getting into coding a bit if you have a dev role that doesn't involve coding? Do you have any advice on that?
I think that's a tough spot to be in. But where I would start from is maybe you don't need to ask your employer. Um, I'm trying to think off the top of my head a couple of what's it called, dev roles that don't require coding. It could be how to use an application, it could be how to use a tool, and I don't think there's any good answer that your employer could tell you like, oh, this is how you can get into coding, because they'll tell you, oh, your role doesn't require coding. If that's the case, right? But I think on your own spare time is making, finding ways to incorporate maybe a project that you can build that will take advantage of your application or your, or your project that you will use at work, right? If it applies, of course. If you're a developer
Yeah.
advocate for a tool like, let me say, let me see. I don't know, Microsoft Teams, maybe not. Maybe like Netlify, where all you just need to do is, help developers get more comfortable deploying applications. You might find that you don't necessarily have to code, but then you can, on your own spare time, experiment with like combination of tools, maybe combining Vite and React or Tailwind, all of those things, and then deploying it on this platform that's maybe it doesn't require you to code normally, but you've created your own coding aspect to be able to create content or create resources for people that, oh, I want to deploy a React Tailwind project on Netlify. Is that possible, right? I mean, this is easier said than done. The projects that your employer hired you for might be even further away from coding, and that's probably going to be more difficult. But I think the first part would just be thinking about, oh, what can I build that could also make advantage of this? Because if you're in DevRel, it's like developer relations. So you're targeting developers, right? So what kind of
Yeah.
developers will use this tool in the first place? Is it connected to the coding part of their roles? Can I relate or can I simulate that experience for myself so that I'm doing coding, but I'm also like doing good at my job without like sacrificing any of those? But without specific details, it's also a very difficult one to give a generic advice on.
Hmm. I love the answer. So, just to chime in a few words here. So, if you are in this type of situation, something that I would advise is for you to take some time and research on some coding project that somehow relates to your company's tool. Like Ace said about Netlify. So, since Netlify is a platform where devs deploy their projects, you can decide to build a mini project like a README generator or an AI generator roadmap and deploy it on Nestlify. You are also coding and still um, telling devs how to deploy that type of projects or to deploy that type of project on that tech stack on your company's platform.
Yeah, exactly.
So besides coding, besides community management, what other skills should a developer have to okay, what other skills should someone have to excel in the developer advocacy field?
I mean, I think the next thing would be social skills, but that kind of also ties into community management in a way, but not necessarily. Um, there are so many developers today that are just, they just enjoy building stuff. They don't want to like interact with anybody. But if you're doing
Yeah.
developer advocacy or developer relations, you would most likely be interacting either physically or virtually with people. So knowing how to like, be social, speaking to people. Sometimes people can be rude. There are people from like different parts of the world, different cultures. So even when they have no malicious intent, that's just they might not even, English might not be their native language, right? Your language might not be their native language, and a lot of meaning can be lost, a lot of context and nuances could be lost in translation and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So having the empathy is one of the things I think is just very important, because if a developer is having an issue and I can relate to the fact that they're struggling with that issue, I can put in more effort, I can spend some time to figure out why they're having that issue and solving it for them. I'm committed to make sure like the experiences is nice for them. And if you have the empathy as well, you're also able to like outside of what's it called, outside of what is required for you to do that day, you can think about, oh, this is possibly what a developer can run into if they go this way. Because you're thinking about them, you're putting yourself in their shoes, and then you can go on to solve that problem before it even becomes a problem, right? And even if it's already a problem, you're also able to relate with why that is a problem. You're able to speak to them to confirm, oh, what do they need in this particular moment, and or what resources can you provide. But I think it's just essential for you to have that like empathy in the beginning, like just be able to relate to members of the community or your target audience. This is
Yeah.
a lot. People say like developer advocacy and developer relations in general is a bridge between your community and your company, right? And for this to work, you need to understand the goals of both parties. What is the goal of the company? What is the goal of the community? So, because nobody's just using your project, your company's project for the sake of it. It's not like, oh, I like the idea of everything. I'm just going to use their platform if they have a need for it. They might not have a pressing need for it, but they have something to use it for. That's why they're using it. So you need to be able to figure out what the needs of both parties are, and then you become the avatar, the bridge between both worlds, and make things happen, and show that you understand both parties, communicate when necessary, and just support. Having the social skills, the empathy, and of course technical skills sometimes to make those things come to life.
That was very, very nice. So I knew of everything. I think I'm not sure I did know that the empathy skills were part of it, but I did
All
know
right,
the other skills. So thank you for sharing that.
no problem.
So now, in your role, how do you measure the success and impact of your role in your company or in a program?
Right. So I currently work at TBD, which is a business
Yeah.
in an incubation business unit, a blog. And what we are building it's a new tech, so to say. So awareness is still like a part of where of some of the things that we're focusing on. How can more people know about this? So for me, my role is it's more like, am I helping developers, like top level anyways, am I helping developers easily do what they intend to do, right? So if someone is coming to our community and they say they want to use the Web 5.js library, um, my work that I do day to day, for example, is in any way, improving that experience for them to be able to easily use this, or find resources, or what's it called, achieve the end goal that they've come to the community for, right? Um, Based on your company, of course, there could be set KPIs, set goals, either for the quarter or stuff like that, that you actually like add measure towards. But most of those are, of course, numbers in some cases, and you work towards those. But from the personal perspective, as a developer advocate, um, is there meaning in my work? At least that's what it looks like for me. Like, is my work translating, and whatever it is, could be content. I could make a YouTube tutorial about something. It could be a talk. It could be whatever it is. But the bottom line is, am I providing value that I intend to provide using this whatever I'm doing, whether it's a talk or it's a video. And that's how I, technically measure success and impact, because there's no point making stuff that nobody wants to find out about or that is useful to anybody. And that's it.
Oh, wow, that was really, really insightful.
Sure.
So now, okay, I know that at the beginning of this stream, you talked a bit about your challenges as a developer advocate. Can you like go in depth? So, what are some common challenges you faced when you first became a developer advocates, and you still facing the same challenges, and how have you resolved those challenges?
I mean, I think I would like to break challenges into like two parts. There's probably like the hard challenges and the soft challenges.
Yeah.
The first hard challenge would be like in terms of knowing what to do, like actual like skills. Sometimes you could be in a situation where you need to come up with strategy, like how do we approach developers, how do we do stuff like that. So learning, observing how other companies have done it or other companies that are similar to you, which is a lot of research, a lot of uh, putting yourself in developer shoes. You're also a developer, right? Especially if you are. Not everybody start goes into developer advocacy starts out as a developer anyways. But if you're a developer, you're also putting yourself in that role. So this there's a process where you need to like be more confident, you need to be be more certain and learning the platform that you're advocating for. So a lot of this is like a recurring challenge that you need to get past to feel more confident as a developer advocate because a lot of people could panic or be scared sometimes when you're doing developer advocacy for the first time, or maybe you just got hired, for example, for a role and someone's asking you a question about the product and you have no idea what they're talking about. Uh, if you're not very confident, it also gets to something that you could start worrying about. So one trick there is to also feel comfortable to tell people like, "Oh, I'm just learning about this as well. I don't know how to solve this problem for you right now, but I'm sure I'll go back to my team to ask and I can get back to you." Like being comfortable with not knowing everything is something that you also
Yeah.
is a skill that you need to acquire on that journey because you might know your product amazingly well, but you'll be surprised with the level of use cases and edge cases and different ways that people would apply a certain product or library or project or whatever the case is to their own solutions and problems, right? And it's impossible for you to be an expert on all of these use cases because
Yeah.
yeah, so so that being comfortable with not knowing everything is very essential there. But for the soft challenges, I think one thing that is very common with DevRel is delayed gratification. Um, you could give an amazing talk, you could make the best blog post ever in the world. You could write like we call the best YouTube tutorial. Like all of those things could be perfect, but not it's not just going to like give you 1 million viewers at once or like 1,000 comments at once or everybody so this is perfect now you've acquired 1 million customers for your platform or it doesn't just work like that, right? So a lot of it takes time. A lot of it, even when people read the article or the year or the year you speak about your project, and they're like, "Oh, I like this. I'm gonna try it someday." You don't know they were thinking that, and even if they come back to you 1 year, 2 years, even though it's a result, it was as a result of the effort that you put in a long time ago. You never probably know at that moment because it is delayed gratification. And so with developer relations, there are times where you might not indirectly immediately see the results of the good work that you're doing, and it's not going to come to you till later time. So sometimes you might find yourself asking, "What's even the point of all of this? Is it working? What do I need to improve?" All of those things can make you feel very, confused and not doing like feeling like you're not doing a good enough job sometimes because you're not seeing the direct immediate results. Even though you're
Yeah.
trying your best, and eventually this also now then leads to burnout and all of those other things. Those are like kind of things I like to describe as the soft challenges because they're not like it's not something that you can directly solve with numbers or with making a direct change. There are things that just happen as a result of either the nature of the job or it just happen over time. So yeah.
True, true. And I think I faced some of the challenges, and one that was really painful was when I transitioned from developer to DevRel.
Mm-hmm.
I was unsure on what to do, like on what my first task should be, or how I should impact the community and the team. So one thing I know that I did that really helped me was I started connecting with DevRels on Twitter. I spoke to them about my issues and they
Yeah.
gave me some advice. I also learned from their experiences what worked for them, what didn't work, and how that's kind of factor in my current role and how that kind of factor in my current situation.
100%. I spoke to a lot of developer advocates myself in that time. Alex, Alex, who else? A lot of people, Sarah Jasna, even engineers, Unico developer Prosper, I don't know if you know him,
Yeah,
Chris.
I do.
There are a lot of people that are always there or probably went ahead of you, and you just observe how they approach stuff, and you try to like apply that to your situation because not always going to be the same case, like
Yeah.
word for word. So it's important to speak to people, learn from people, read blog posts. And I used to get really mad at blog posts then because a lot of the content I was seeing around developer relations would be philosophical answers. So, for example, I'm like, oh, how can I track this metric? And someone will just be like, oh, know what your company is about, and you figure it out. And I'm like, okay, fine, this is not helping me. I already know that, but this is not helping me in any way. And unfortunately, there's sometimes these are like the best answers you can give. But even myself, when I'm writing content, even explaining stuff, I try as much as possible. Like, I might not be able to give you company specific answers that will just immediately solve your problem, but I try to
Yeah.
give like, okay, if I was in that situation, this might be how I would look at it, and this is the step I would probably try to take to find the answer. But so just giving a philosophical, be focused on your team and you figure it out because like, that's not helping anybody. But there was a ton of content like that, especially when I was starting out. So I found myself having to directly reach out to people and asking them questions, and just observing other people as well and learning from them. So networking either from a distance or directly is also a valuable resource.
Yes, yes. I have to agree with that. And I noticed that the more I connected with them, the more I was able to not just build my network, but also build my communication skills because
Right.
they gave me advice on how to communicate to the community, how to relate to developers as well.
Smart. I don't think I got any direct advice on how to relate to customer. I think I just observed that from watching people and just maybe seeing situation where I'm like, is this person mad? And then I see that the developer locates in that context, responds like calmly. I'm like, oh, so I should not tell the person that they're mad. Gotcha. Uh, so, like I said, you also learn that from a distance,
Yeah,
and just observe what some of people that you look up to are doing, how they're handling different situations, and of course your own personal values as well. You apply that to everything that you're doing.
exactly. So Aziz asked,
Right.
if as a dev role you're currently open to work, how best can you keep up?
How best can you keep up? That's a that's a tough question. I think this is gonna sound cheeky, but I think the best thing is to become the devil for yourself. You are the product here, because you're currently open to work, so you want to promote yourself. So it's a great way to show an example of what an excellent developer relations person you are by seeing how you can create relations for yourself. And this does not give you the job in any way. It just increases your chances. It stems up from networking, communicating, and if you have some, of course, leeway, it's also a good opportunity for you to look at projects that you kind of like. Um, you might not like be hired by those companies, but in your spare time, contributing to open source projects, or even those that are not open source, but you kind of like them, could be paid projects, but just like talk about them like a developer advocate that was working for them would. It puts you on the map of those people and technically on the map of the people in their network. And if you're doing great at it, it's something that people notice things. They might not like
Yeah.
notice your name and write your name down, but they see your name the first time, see your name second time, see your name the third time. Everything compounds, and somehow you start to build mind share in people's perspective. Like, oh, I've seen this person does this, person does that. Oh, you're looking to hire a developer person. I think I know someone that is in this space. But people need to know what you're about for them to, because the world is vast. There are like what 8 billion people in the world. Probably only God knows how many hundred thousands of people are in DevRel. A lot of them are skilled, but it's not just about the skills, about what you are doing with it. So if you're a DevRel person currently open to work, you have to do DevRel for yourself. You have to be out there. You have to talk about stuff. You have to try as much as possible to be genuine and also desperate. Oh, I'm looking for a job, so I'm just saying anything I need to say. But you feel like, regardless of your current situation, you express value, like and be as honest and genuine as possible about products or things that you think about technology, and just, but as much as possible, just be out there as your honest self. Over time you would build relationships, you would be able to build even if none of these relationships actually lead to your direct job, but when you get your job, these are things that you're already building upon as well. And if you
Yeah.
get a different job outside of that network and you continue doing it and you're sharing it within the global network like Twitter, for example, it's going to help you out on your next role as well. Referrals are a big thing, and even outside of referrals, when someone wants to hire someone in Devel, you'll find that sometimes they can go ask somebody else like, "You do you know this person? Have you worked with this person before?" So word of mouth or just validation, like, "Oh, this is a great developer. This is a great developer advocate person." But the only way they can know that even without working with you is seeing how you've addressed the quality of work that you've done in the past. And the only way for you to do that is to share it, is to be out there with it, is to network genuinely, is to talk about things that you actually like outside of work. It could be related to technology, right? Not just like doesn't have to be completely non-technology related, but it could be outside of your current employment even. But just like talking about, oh, I like this new view stuff, I like this new thing, I like this stuff like that, right? And just shows the kind of person that you are in interest. And sometimes your interest might be your next place of employment. You never know.
True. Yeah. Yeah, I think I have to agree with that. And then another thing is, if you have the opportunity to be part of a community, or you are in a community, you can also start just helping the community members there, because as a dev role you would definitely have to manage communities.
Right.
So just having that experience engaging with the community, helping them out, either by sharing resources or helping them debug or do one or two things, that would really really help you as well.
Yeah, my first developer advocate role, I didn't apply for it.
Wow.
I was a software developer and I was just doing my day to day stuff. But I was a member of a Slack community, and once I'm done with my work for the day, I'm always like my brain is like itching like to solve a problem, and I'm there like just going through the Slack, seeing people that are asking PHP questions at the time, JavaScript questions at the time, and then I go in there like, "Yo, have you tried this? Did you try this?" And I respond, and then someone from there was like, "Oh, you built something nice. Oh, I see how you help people in the community. Do you want to talk about? Do you want to give a talk? Do you want to do this?" And then I got a talk, and then from there I got a referral like, "Oh, I know this guy that likes to do community stuff and he builds stuff.
Yeah.
So I think you should hire him for your next level." And I got an email, "Hey, this person recommended you for us to do this role. Do you want to try? Do you want to check it out?" So I didn't do all the things I was doing in that Slack community because I was hoping that somebody would find me and give me a job. It was just who I was at the time. It just shows that okay, this is the kind of value that this person can provide, and I think that's also what I would do. I think one of the things I also just advise in general is like just being someone of value. And what I mean by that is anything you are doing, you try and do it with like as much quality as you would if you're getting paid good money for it. Um, I like to call it VDD, which is value driven development. So if I'm doing something random, what is the value I'm trying to give out with this thing, right? What's the point of it? Is the value is it just like vanity stuff? I mean, vanity stuff could have value, could have sentimental value sometimes, but it just needs to be value-driven development where people can see that you're providing value one way or the other, either to yourself or to a group of people, and it kind of shows who you really are, so to say, and people can vouch for that.
Yeah, true, 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 true to that. So, you just spoke about how you were able to, I think, speak at a conference. So, do
Yeah.
you think that all DevRels are into public speaking, or it depends? Or do you think that public speaking too could also be a great way for someone to break into developer advocacy?
Um. So what's the first question again? Do I think the devil is all devil should
It-
do public speaking? Yeah. So
yes.
I don't think it's essential because even developer relations itself is broken up into different parts. There are people that are very community management focused. There are people that are very developer evangelists, like just being out there talking and just bringing people into the platform. And then there's developer advocate that tries to like balance stuff out. You could be in the community today, you could be on the road tomorrow, or you could be speaking at another meetup. So I think it kind of depends on your strength. There are people that are just going to be developer relations people that just update documentation and create content and don't necessarily be out there, right? Unless they want to, of course. But I think anybody can do public speaking if you put the effort into it. If it's something you want to do, you can train yourself to be more comfortable speaking in front of people, and everyone can get to that point. But you don't have to. You don't have to be out in the open. We have different personalities in the world, right? You could just
Yeah.
be, do the things that you actually enjoy doing, either in the comfort of your home and stuff like that. So I think it's essential for people to know that there's flexibility with the different aspects of developer relations, and you don't have to, if it's not your thing, you don't have to feel obligated like, oh my god, I have to speak. But I definitely think, regardless of whether you're doing documentation stuff or private stuff, like building relationships, whether with members of the community or with just members of the ecosystem, is an essential thing that would always be beneficial, because you are not only just providing value to people in your community that you are supporting, but you're also like horizontally helping up your colleagues from another company, from another part of the world, right? That are doing similar things that you do. You're learning from them, they're learning from you. And I think it's essential, even without necessarily, being up on stage and giving a talk.
True, true. Oh, that was good. That was insightful. Okay, I another question that I know that people have asked me and I have been curious myself
Yeah.
is that do developer advocates need a portfolio when applying for a job, or do they just need only a resume? Because I know that for let's say front end devs, as you're applying for a role, you can have a portfolio of all your projects that you've done to
Yeah.
sort of skills your to sort of showcase your skills. So do you think a developer advocates need a portfolio when applying for a role?
Everybody needs a portfolio. But the portfolio might come in different forms. Different companies might require different levels of portfolios. And this is what I mean by that. So, for example, in my previous roles, companies ask me, like, you submit your profile. If you have a Twitter account, submit it. If you have a YouTube account, submit it and stuff like that. So if a company is checking out your profile, they go to your GitHub as a developer advocate, right? They go to your GitHub, they see that you build
Yeah.
projects. That is a portfolio that shows that, oh, this person is slightly technical, or they're very technical, as this may be. They're going to your profile, they see your YouTube, maybe you make a lot of videos, and like, oh, this is kind of content that this person likes to make. That is your portfolio, even though you did not necessarily submit a portfolio. But they Google your name and they see that you spoke at this conference, spoke at this conference, they spoke at this conference. All of this work that you've done out in the open is your portfolio for a start. But then there could also be companies that would require you, like, yo, as you're submitting this application, can you list some of the developer relations initiatives that you've done over the last year, 2 or 3, as case maybe? Now you have to go
Yeah.
there to now create that information and be like, oh, I created this open source project, or I'm maintaining this open source project, or I have this series that I do on my YouTube channel. I have a very big YouTube channel or small YouTube channel, as case maybe. I have an Instagram following, or I have a community on Instagram, or blah 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 blah, stuff like that. Now you can create your portfolio to tell the story that you want to tell. But whether a company requires you to submit a structured portfolio like that or not, you should be rest assured that as a developer relations person, they will check to see if you actually relate to developers one way or the
Oh,
other. Actual, whether it's checking out any social media, any media platform that you submit, or maybe finding evidence for technical experience, um, and stuff like that. If there is not so many evidence of that online, it might not be a negative thing for you, but it just means that when you come to the interview, you have to show like this is why you're a good developer relations person. But if they can easily find all of these things already by themselves, in their spare time, you've already moved ahead of the curve by showing that this person is actually out there already as a developer relations person. And it just gives you a plus for when you get to the interview and stuff like that.
wow. Okay, so does that mean that if I have, okay, like now that I'm active on Twitter,
Yeah.
that I can use my Twitter as a portfolio when applying for jobs?
Um, I won't say as a portfolio directly, but I think it's just part of your profile. Especially if your Twitter is something that engages with other people in the tech ecosystem. If you're applying for a developer relations job, they are looking to find someone that can relate to developers, like I said. So if you have a network, it's not. I don't want people to focus on the number of followings, but if you have a platform, social media platform, where what you do there is you have a technical community there, engaging with you, regardless of the size, technically. You just kind of just add a positive plus like, oh, this person is a member or participates in whatever level, whether as a tech leader or whatever the case is, but they participate in the tech ecosystem that we want them to be a part of, that we want them to be our representative in. So it might not be necessary that oh, this person has 10,000, 100,000 followers, blah, 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 blah. I mean, probably helps. But that's not what I'm advocating for in this case. It's just like it's more like a binary what's it called? Evidence of presence and participation in the tech ecosystem, either through a social platform or through a media platform, or just some people might not even use any of these public facing platforms, but then they have like a plethora of their own personal websites and they have like a ton of talks on there. That is also technically a portfolio that it's just something that people see and know that oh, this is what this person does, and that's what I mean by that.
Oh, I understand now.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. So another question I have is, in your role or from your experience, how do you
Yeah.
deal with burnouts? Because I know that I see a lot of tweets where dev roles are like that they burn out faster than developers, mostly because in some companies they have to wear so many
So
hats,
many
or they
years.
have to
Yeah.
yeah, or they have to take up so many roles or responsibility. So from your experience, how do you deal with burnouts?
It definitely helps to have a good team that you work with that could, help with, covering, picking up your slack where necessary. But the thing in burnout is you might not be able to help it regardless of how great your company might be. It could just be a lot to be done, and you find you get that burnout as well. So I would say for having hobbies outside of work, being able
Yeah,
to take some time off sometimes if you need to unplug in, and maybe like doing an internal review to see if you still enjoy the role, and or any other way that you can improve your day to day to make it more enjoyable for you. So you're still getting the work done, you're still providing the value that you were hired for, but you do it at maybe at your own pace or at your own at a more convenient um, process for you without necessarily reducing your productivity levels in any way. So I think just taking time out to unplug, and also giving yourself grace that you will not be 100% every day. Like I said earlier, we're not machines. It's impossible to be 100% every day. But what we are getting paid or I had for is knowing that regardless of what happens every day or at the end of the month or quarter, whatever the case is, we are moving towards our goal and we achieve the goals and all of those things. So it's going to be, there are days we are going to be going around 50% where you just go and
yeah,
entirely, um, and there are days you probably just be 50%, 20%, but just knowing that, okay, you're moving an inch day or you give yourself grace to rest where necessary, is what's going to, I think, help to deal with burnout. But like, it's not a one answer. It's not an absolute answer to everything. It's still a process that you need to know who you are yourself, and but I think it's just good steps to take to try and balance it out and reduce as much as possible. I do
yeah.
get burnt out, but up until recently, I almost never take time off. But recently, I've started taking time off. Not necessarily because I'm burnt out, but because I also don't want to get burnt out, and stuff like that. So just pacing yourself, knowing the kind of person that you are, also definitely helps.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah,
So two things I picked out from what you just said. Number one, having hobbies outside of work.
yeah,
Yeah. And number two, ensuring that you rest well and you necessarily don't have to burn out or break down before you take rest or before you take time
yeah,
off.
definitely, definitely.
That's That's amazing. Okay, so while we wrap up, because we have like 6 minutes before we wrap up,
Yeah.
can you share any success stories where you impacted or you hosted or held an impactful developer advocacy initiative or program?
Oh, I mean, I have a couple. um, where do I start? I think probably one of my favorite ones to date. The first one actually is my first developer advocacy role was at Ingressive. Today we have Ingressive for Africa, if I remember correctly, and that's one
Yeah,
of you are aware of the organized. But before that, it used to just be Ingressive, and Ingressive had like a market entry division and an investment firm division. But at the time, I was leading the Ingressive Campus Ambassador program. And what he did was bring technology to some of like universities across sub-Saharan Africa, so mostly Nigeria, anyways, but also Ghana, Kenya, like just a bit of those. So it's one of my favorite things to talk about because a lot of the developers that became student ambassadors at that time are doing amazingly well today. And it's just always a thing of pride to like see these people breaking into tech, and I've already started like making name for themselves. A couple of them are actually the founders of Gray. I like to like, but yeah, I know those guys.
Wow.
Yeah, so it so they are founders of like tech companies that are raising money. One of them is also Shedrack, an amazing developer relations person himself, and everything started with him. So like in university, becoming choosing his own path to become a campus ambassador, doing other community activity stuff. But I can't help but just I felt like aggressive at that time, being able to also provide resources to support student developers, and me having that privilege and opportunity to like help bring that initiative to life. That's always one thing I'm always excited to talk about. um, Outside of that, I mean, developer relations also goes beyond those community activities. Before I left Flutterwave, I had a project to build out like a custom developer documentation. So the first version of the current, I think they've updated the bit quite a bit actually. So it's not exactly the same thing, but the current developer documentation for Flutterwave, I actually built like most of the groundwork for that, and that was really nice because
Wow.
yeah, we had to like do a lot of thinking like, oh, how can we future proof this so that you can continue to like scale it based on what you need. So while we did a lot of technical thinking, we also did a lot of developer experience thinking. Like what would create the best experience for developers? What can we currently implement in time or not? Like making those decisions. That was really nice. And then most recently, a blog actually went on a roadshow with my manager Angie Jones. I don't know if anyone in the audience knows her. Uh,
I
yeah, awesome. So in my company, we're working on something called TBDEX, which is like a financial messaging protocol for financial institutions to be able to build wallets, PFIs. It's like transfer money cross border as easily as possible. And one of the places that benefit a lot from that is also Africa. So over the last couple of weeks, took a bunch of trips to Kenya and Ghana, and was able to like meet developers in these countries. And we like did a workshop. That was actually the first time I would do a full day workshop, and we
yeah.
were able to do a workshop, and it was surprising for me. Like developers sat down there the entire day, and even though at the end of the day, like 6 7 p.m., they were still like very energetic and very excited to like
Wow.
participated in that workshop. So which means I did not bore them to death. Good sign. So even after the day, we're able to like be excited and talk about the possibilities of the technology that we're introducing to them, and that kind of just validates the entire experience and all the effort that was put into that kind of program and initiative. So I think those kind of stand out for me as well.
Wow, that was like wow, that's amazing. I mean, I had no idea that you were part of um Ingressive for Good and you're also part of the Floater Wave team.
Yeah, I was.
That's quite an experience.
Yeah, I've tried my best. But yeah,
All right. So well, we have less than 2 minutes left, so I think let's just wrap up.
yeah.
So now I know that I got to know about you through your YouTube
Oh, nice.
channel. So what should we expect from you in the coming week, the coming months, any upcoming YouTube channel or
Um,
content or program?
I mean, these days, aside from like work content and stuff, I just try to do like hobbyist content as much as possible. So I'm unboxing, like I have like a fake sword in the background, like I'm just messing around like a little kid. But like I said, just having stuff outside of work that you do that makes you feel good. So I do love like some of this random, sometimes funny content on Instagram. I post them sometimes on Twitter, but not always. So that's probably where you'd find some of my upcoming content. But like Iski TV, that's what it is on Instagram. But yeah, that's just it. Just fun stuff outside of work. Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. I really can't wait to see your next YouTube channel, sorry, YouTube video or your next content.
Yeah, I'm working on
Okay.
some of them.
Also, okay,
Thank you.
so one last thing before we wrap up.
Yeah.
Do you have any last word for the audience? Do you have any last word for anyone that is looking to become a developer advocate or to become a developer?
Yeah, I think. Oh yeah, thanks, Ellie. Thanks for stopping by. I'm glad you did as well. But yeah, I think the only advice I would have is like two parts, which is just keep building, and also focusing on value, providing value. No one can go wrong by providing value because even if that value isn't appreciated like today, a company that also hire you in 10 years, 5 years could see that project or something and see the value that it could have been and kind of just acknowledge that um, so it's a thing of like self pride, but it's also like something
Yeah,
that is beneficial because regardless of circumstances, you know you can be trusted to always do good work or provide the best value that you can. So anytime I'm trying to do something, I think about like if you are building, you learn a ton of stuff from building stuff. You are put in different situations where you have to like upgrade, learn new stuff, and all of those things. Um, so yeah, building stuff that gives you real life experiences and building them in a way that what's it called? You're providing value. It's immeasurable. It's the way they describe energy. Like energy is neither destroyed nor can neither be created or destroyed, but changes form. I think that's what value is.
yeah.
As long as you continue like providing value in any capacity, that value will continue to like just multiply or extend forward. So yeah,
Thank you.
thank
Well,
you.
this has been an amazing 1 hour. I mean, I've learned a lot, and I'm very sure that the audience too have learned so much.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So, guys, this is the end of episode 9 of DevMar Dots. So, we would be having our next episode on the 22nd of July, where we'll be talking about how to build a Discord community. Because I noticed that most companies have Discord community, and as a DevRel, you would be needed to engage in a community. So, see you on the 22nd of July at 2 p.m. I would also be announcing that on Twitter. So you can either subscribe to our YouTube channel to be notified when we go live, or you can follow us on Twitter. And thank you for joining us and see you in our next stream. Bye.
Thank you for having me. Bye. Cheers, everyone.